Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. This year, Australian buy now, pay later platform Afterpay turned 10. In just one decade, the fintech unicorn has played a key role in the rapid growth of the buy now, pay later sector. It was a share market darling with share price booming before Block acquired the business for an incredible $39 billion. But where's the sector heading now? Since the sale was completed in 2022, Afterpay says consumers have spent over $72 billion US, that's about 110 Aussie, through the platform. I'm joined today by Country Manager and Executive Vice President at Afterpay, Katrina Konstas. It's also an opportunity to mark International Women's Day by speaking with a leader in finance and technology, two traditionally male-dominated environments. Katrina, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. Delighted to be here.
I've got to ask up front, since the takeover from Block, how has Afterpay changed?
Well, look, we're still an Aussie startup, born and bred right here in Sydney. We continue to make, great strides in the growth of our business, but we are part of a broader organisation now, right? I report into Nick Molnar, one of the co-founders. He's directly into Jack Dorsey. And I think, having an illustrious leader like Jack has been incredibly inspiring for a lot of our people, our staff. And having the backing of a global organisation like Block, I think has been really fortuitous for our sector. As you saw the advent after our sale and you saw, a number of other players that dissipated out of the industry. We've remained strong. And I think being able to broaden the ecosystem of what we've got here, we've got the Afterpay business, you've got Square, a number of other brands. It's really placed us in a strong position as ever.
Funny thing about the buy now, pay later sector, because it kind of came out of nowhere pretty much with Afterpay, to be honest. It was probably there before Afterpay, but certainly the first time that I became aware of it was Afterpay. And I didn't understand that it had any longevity, but to be honest, it was an administrator of another buy now, pay later group said, no, this sector has longevity because people have grown up on the four payment ideas. So it's not a fly-by-night thing, it'll stay. How has buy now, pay later changed over that period? But don't tell me about new credit regulations because we'll get to them in a moment.
Oh, well, look, Afterpay was founded 10 years ago. We celebrated our 10th birthday in October of last year. And it was, a story that, like I said earlier, we started here in Sydney. Two neighbours, Anthony Eisen and Nick Molnar, came up with the idea of, how do you transform a way of paying for our younger generation? You've got a segment, Gen Z, millennials who are credit averse. They don't want credit cards. They're not interested in them and want alternative ways of paying in a more flexible way. And so the idea of Afterpay came about. And over 10 years, it's amassed over 24 million customers globally. I think it's appealed to a demographic of customer who wants more flexibility and doesn't want, they grew up in, post-GFC era, not wanting to go down dealing with traditional banks. And so this was an alternate, flexible way of adopting a form of payment that really works to that generational needs.
And why is Australia the heart of it, though?
Oh, it was founded here, right?
No. But buy now, pay later. Was buy now, pay later founded in Australia?
Well, there's always contention about that. Right. But look, you've got, two significant players that came with the idea of both Afterpay and then, fast follower with Zip. Both brands have gone global and I think they've been able to resonate with consumers globally. You do have a number of other global players in the markets now, but certainly here in Australia, it's something that certainly resonates with Australians and with Aussies, and Afterpay continues to be that number one brand when it comes to this sector.
What about the new regulations which are about to be applied to the buy now, pay later sector? Essentially for small businesses who have customers who use buy now, pay later facilities, so they use Afterpay, they're actually going to have to do greater credit checks in essence. How will that work?
Well, actually, it's Afterpay that's going to need to do the credit checks.
Yes.
So we take on all of the grunt work. Effectively, what will happen come June of this year is that previously, we would only do an ID verification check. We will now be proceeding with doing a formal credit check on all new customers that come through. And so hopefully that translates to more merchants feeling a lot more comfortable with accepting buy now, pay later as a form of payment and more consumers embracing it as a way forward.
So if I'm buying something for $2,000 and I'm going to do 4 lots of $500 payments, does Afterpay do a credit check on me once or is it every time I spend the $2,000?
It's once when you apply for us and for the facility, kind of similar to what you would do with your credit card, right? You would put an application forward, you would be granted some kind of a limit, a credit limit that you would work with. That would be the same with Afterpay. However, the limit that you get applied traditionally or prior to credit checks, it would be a limit of $600. In the future, we might value you as actually a more valuable customer because you've got a healthier credit check than our risk models determine, and so we might lend you a little bit more than that. We've implemented regulations over in New Zealand and have been able to see that not only do we expand more consumers onto our network, but we do actually start with higher limits because we're able to conduct those credit checks. So it's actually quite a good thing for our business.
We'll take a quick break, Katrina, and be back in a moment. I'm speaking to Katrina Konstas from Afterpay. International Women's Day is on Saturday, the 8th. What does it mean for you, particularly since you work in a very male-dominated sector?
I do, and I feel like every year we come to International Women's Day and we feel like it's a moment where we need to cast this spotlight on women and the importance that they play in workplaces. And, for me, this is something that we need to be doing year round and not just in a workplace environment. It is certainly a moment to be able to recognize the importance of empowering women, regardless of the role that they play or the sector that they're in, that we celebrate the greatness that comes with what women achieve, and to remind ourselves that, it doesn't matter what your background is, what industry you're in, but that from a women's standpoint, we've got to support and be open to supporting women in all generations, in all sectors. For us here at Afterpay and at Block, this time of year is a great opportunity to cast that spotlight on a variety of different talents, whether it is you're an engineer, 40% of our engineering workforce here are female. We've got really strong leadership right across our boards, both at Afterpay and more broadly at Square. But it is a time to be able to really remember and remind those around us of the important roles that women play, not only just in the workplace, but certainly broader than that.
Some of the political debate around this is difficult at the moment, and it is what it is. Do you think, though, that the benefits of having a diverse workforce, gender being part of that, but it's actually broader than that, is at least inculcated enough in businesses now that it'll just keep going?
I think it depends on the sector, and I think it depends on the environment and the leadership that exists within particular businesses. I've been fortunate enough, certainly in my career, where I've had very strong women in leadership positions that have inspired others to continue to pursue career growth within those organizations. It certainly has been something here at Afterpay. I know when I first joined 5 years ago, when you looked at the global leadership team, more than half of it were female. Our chair was female. So I've certainly personally been surrounded by strong women that have been an inspiration to me, and hopefully I've been able to play a similar role to others that I lead and that I engage with. But I do think that it's very important that we do have women in leadership positions. And yes, it's certainly very topical at the minute. I think there's a role that everyone has to play to ensure that we take a very diverse lens to everything that we approach in these times.
It's someone like me, and I used to run big newsrooms, and I don't doubt that I employed people in my mirror, right? And I look back on it now and I think, ouch, it actually embarrasses me that I did it. How do you stop that? I don't have newsrooms now, so it's not me, but absolutely that's what I did.
Well, look, I think it comes down to our education systems. I think it comes down to the examples that we set for our kids and the conversations that we should be having about equality, more broadly. I think casting that very strong spotlight on the fact that it doesn't matter what your gender is or, what you do, we should be looking at employing and engaging with diverse groups. So whether that is gender diversity, whether that is diverse talent. When I look at employing people within my organization, we don't take a cookie cutter approach. We look at people who are going to bring another aspect to our organization that is going to help challenge the status quo or help us accelerate our business. And so I think ensuring that we are embracing diversity however we see it, I think is the right lens we should be using for the future.
Katrina, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean.
That was Katrina Konstas, Country Manager and Executive Vice President at Afterpay. This is the Fear and Greed Business Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.